With the creation of Breath of the Wild, Nintendo took a massive risk by introducing the open world concept to the Legend of Zelda series. It wasn't necessarily something new, as games like The Witcher or Skyrim have been applying this to their games for a very long time now. But in context to a series like The Legend of Zelda, this was a concept that was foreign. Breath of the Wild may have given the series a, quote, breath of fresh air, but in my personal opinion, I didn't really enjoy it as much as everyone else did. In this week's video, I'd like to talk to you about why I think that Nintendo needs to ease up on the open world mechanics in the sequel and bring back some more linearity. I know, not what you were expecting, right? Hey, I'm Derek and welcome to Zelda Theory. If you are a Zelda fan, my friend, this is the place for you. I'm just like you, a massive Zelda fan that just decided to start creating content one day. I appreciate your time, and I do hope that I can bring you some value today. Breath of the Wild was amazing, right? I think we all can agree on this. It brought so many new things to the Zelda series, which honestly I could spend countless hours talking about. However, today I'd like to narrow down on one of the biggest changes which was made to this entry to the Zelda series, which in my opinion is the open world mechanic in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Yes, I do realize that this has sort of been done before in the series, but not on this grand of a scale. My opinion might not be the preferred one or the most agreed upon, but if I'm being 100% real, I actually did not like the open world concept in Breath of the Wild. I bet you didn't see that coming, did you? Really, I only have a couple of reasons as to why I think this is. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed how open and how flawless this eventually became after hours of getting used to it, but what really attracted me to the Zelda series growing up over the years was the linearity, along with a lot of other things like the music and the story, for example. I liked how I couldn't do certain things until I did other things, if that makes sense. It gave the game some structure. Again, I'm probably on my own little island here, but it's true. Now there is a healthy balance here, obviously. I'm not saying that I want Nintendo to completely go back to the old way of doing things, but I do want them to take notes from previous titles in the series. There needs to be a healthy balance, if you will. Some old mechanics intertwined with things that Breath of the Wild nailed. An example here is Skyward Sword. Yes, my friend, the most hated game in the series is one of my all-time favorites. For me, and in my opinion, I loved how in Skyward Sword you visited certain areas more than one time, and each time you visited the area, a new area was available to explore. First thing that comes to mind here is in Skyward Sword, you visit the Faron Woods like bam, first thing, right? Then you come back later in the game and explore another area of Faron Woods that was previously unexplorable. I don't know, again, I am probably the only Zelda fan that actually enjoyed the linearity of Skyward Sword, but hey, I'm totally fine with that. I think that the sequel to Breath of the Wild could learn a thing or two from Skyward Sword, perhaps dungeons. Look, I'm not going to say anything else here. We all know that the sequel needs to bring back dungeons, or something similar. Come on now, I think we can agree that Skyward Sword had some of the best dungeons in the entire Zelda series. No? Well, alright then. I feel that Breath of the Wild being too open heavily affected the story as well. As the player, and more importantly a fan of the series, I 100% lost the connection to one of the most important parts of the Zelda franchise because my focus was always on exploration and getting distracted by every little thing. Which I guess is sort of what Nintendo was trying to do in a way, to completely revolutionize the franchise as a whole. I don't know. I'm just one that didn't prefer how open this game actually was. There was way too much to do right off the bat, which leads me into my next point. Now I know for sure that I'm not alone here. When playing Breath of the Wild, did you ever have one of those squirrel moments? You know what I'm talking about. Like you're on a quest to do whatever you want in Breath of the Wild because that's just how the game is. I mean, literally going straight to Calamity Ganon is possible. It's not recommended, but it's possible. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. You decide that you're going to just run straight for the nearest Sheikah Tower, right? Then you just get distracted and bam! Oh, what's that? Let me see what this is. That happened so many times when I was playing Breath of the Wild, to the point that it was really hard for me to complete the game. Look, I respect that a lot of fans of the series love this aspect of Breath of the Wild, being able to do whatever and whenever you want to. But for me personally, I just didn't enjoy that at all. I would much rather have a game where you literally can't progress until you find a certain item or you complete a quest that allows you to progress further. Now, I am not saying that the game needs to hold my hand all the way through, and Skyward Sword was guilty of this. I totally understand that. But having someone guide you through a Zelda game is a staple in the series. Again, not to the extent of Skyward Sword, but Breath of the Wild 2 I think would be a much better game if they went back to how other games in the series were, where you literally could not progress until you achieved X, Y, or Z. Does that make sense? I hope I'm explaining my point well. If you liked what you've seen in this video, be sure to help me out by hitting that like button, as I have way more Zelda content on the channel, talking about Breath of the Wild 2 specifically, as well as all things Zelda. So in a few here, there will be a couple videos coming up on the screen, so you can just click and bam, more Zelda amazingness. Before I sign off today, massive thank you to my new Yellow Rupee Crew tier members over on Patreon for the support you're showing me over there. Massive shout out to our new crew members, Boston Boot Girl and Jessica. Welcome to the crew. Gabe, The Rebellion, Jeremy. You already know I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. If you'd like to have access to this community, as well as access to a secret podcast exclusively available to my patrons, be sure to click that link in the description and come check it out. As always, continue to be the light, and remember, it's dangerous to go alone. Much peace and love. Let's talk soon. Go ahead. Click on another one of them Zelda videos.